JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. June 20th, 2024, Thursday. Hope everyone enjoyed the day off yesterday. Talk really quick about the markets, some of the names I'm looking at, some of the names I'm holding, and go from there. But first, look at the S&P. The SPY was over 550 in the pre-market, has come down just a little bit. Now trading over the upper Bollinger Band, which is always an indicator. I always look at the lower and the upper. When things break below the lower, typically that means we're at an oversold short term, and when we're above that, I typically, for me at least, that's how one of the indicators I look at, that I want to see it underneath that upper Bollinger Band just for some consolidation. But like I've been my mantra for the last couple of weeks has been new highs beget new highs. So it's a lot easier to break through once we broke through that 531 area. So we'll see how things play out today. There's not much in the way of news or catalyst today and tomorrow. We had the retail sales number come out cooler than expected on Tuesday. So outside of that, it's just the headlines, and the headlines all wrapped around AI and NVIDIA. Dell, you had Elon Musk talk about Dell, so I'll talk about that in a second. So maybe some chop. I prefer consolidation. If we do find some sellers today, 4818 or so, that would be support. Don't want to see it get too far below that. Uh, but nice little piece, and I put it in the watch list. And let's see if I can copy and paste the quote here. But this, the Wall Street Journal had a piece comparing NVIDIA to Cisco, right? And Cisco was the number one market cap company by valuation back in the dot-com bubble, and Cisco made networking for the internet, right? That was there. People are comparing the internet to AI, the AI boom, and then of course you take the two largest companies, NVIDIA at this time, and Cisco, and they're comparing. It's like comparing apples to oranges to me. It makes a great narrative and a great story and great clickbait. But I mean, here's NVIDIA, 60% margins, throwing off $40 billion in free cash flow, and the rest of the companies in 2000 were just based on insane valuations with no profits. So I'm not saying there's never an opportunity for the markets to pull back, but these scenarios have happened over the last 10 years where the markets hit highs, and everybody wants to compare it to the dot-com bubble. I mean, when the Nasdaq, hits highs, that's the first thing everybody does. Definitely different this time go around. Like the top companies actually make money, generate money, have stock buybacks, dividends. So totally different landscape than back then. But at some point we'll have a pullback. So it can't be naive enough to think we won't have a pullback. Uh, and then last but not least, in the overall market, the small caps. Um, yeah, the IWM closed back over, still over 200, closed up barely about 0.2%. Yes, on Tuesday, and right at its 50-day moving average. I keep saying if that starts to go, that could provide the next leg for markets. But of course, small caps are in the red this morning, so we'll have to see how things play out today. So hopefully small caps can find a bit. All right, so individual names. And first, obviously, I'll talk about Dell. Already up 10% this week, up 5% on Monday. It was up over 7% on Tuesday, gave some of it back to close up 5%. And gapping higher this morning, 154.38. You had two catalysts, and one is a positive Wall Street Journal article saying pretty much what I have been saying for the last couple of weeks on Dell, that this narrative for Dell's margins on the AI servers being zero is false. I wouldn't say it's false. Maybe the margins are not there yet, but they are not a non-for-profit company. They're going to generate profits from this side of the business, and they might be substantial. So you take a look where the stock was, you take a look at their earnings, which I thought were phenomenal, and all that comment around the margins around the AI servers is pretty much the reason why it trades down here. So if that is either short-term blip or totally false, stock's going to trade back at all-time highs. So am I saying 180 next week? I don't, possibly, but I don't. It's going to take some time, but I do think it trades to all-time highs in the coming month or two. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to trade Dell for that outcome. I already locked some of the July 170s in on Tuesday. Those came, and then I have the June 165s. Obviously, going to need a large move for that, but I can't rule that out today. It could run to 160 today, and the calls have already somewhat come back to life. So then on the flip side, obviously, I'll be looking for more strikes to play for that possible move to all-time highs in the coming weeks and months. HPQ breaking out of that bull flag. You take a look at that, the setup finally over that breaking the triangle up 2% on Tuesday. It's gapping higher again this morning. I think this is one of those under the radar AI plays that it's not similar to Dell on a side by side comparison, but there's impacts from AI that are not going to be that are not baked into the stock right now, and a lot of their business is not going to start kicking in until the second half of the year. So I think an opportunity. I put it on a watch list this morning. I'll probably look to get August or even September strikes. September strikes look kind of expensive on a risk reward basis. Only I think earnings are implied. Earnings are encompassed in the September strikes, but I might look to add some more of my some August calls. Still have the August 40s. That's HPQ. Universal Display. I was looking all day on Tuesday to add calls again, and then it spiked right into the close. I don't know. They were ringing the Nasdaq closing bell, I think, on Tuesday. So I don't know if that's some of the reason, but it seems every end of session, Universal Display has a large upside move because it was chopping around at 208 for pretty much the entire day, and then it closed up 1% at 209.33. It gapped up this one. Well, it was hitting 210, 211 in the pre-market. I still have the June 220s and still looking for July. It's probably 230, probably 240s now. This refresh in regards to phones and even tablets, things like that are just bode well for Universal Display's business. So I think that trades to all-time highs. I say 250 or so in the coming months. Doesn't mean it can't sell off, but you take a look at what it's done since the start of June. It was 175. It's all the way up here at 210 and pretty much not a red candle to speak of, which means I think there's the buyer's going to keep coming in. So that's Universal Display. Two names, I talked about this on the rant Tuesday afternoon. Some of the folks have been in this already, but Celsius Holdings, which is a name a lot of folks have talked about over the last year, it has I reminisce about Monster, right? And I talked about this, the Monster Energy drink back in the day. Not saying you're just going to go bonkers back on the bounce, but you take a look since its sell off at the end of May, nary a bounce till Tuesday, and Tuesday closed up 8%. I think it heads back 70, 75 at least. The 200-day moving average is 65.76. So once that breaks, I think it's off to the races. So that's Celsius, and then Chewy. And Chewy, I talked about this too. I mean, I had calls for the first quarter earnings. The stock they had to post a beat and raise. The stock was gapping in the after hours, and then it reversed all the after hours gains and then some. And then this past quarter posted the same kind of beat and raise, but they announced a stock buyback plan, and all of a sudden the stock just went bonkers and held the gains and has been going bonkers ever since. Has a 13% short interest. So some of the move on Tuesday, it was up over 13% on no really news or catalyst. And you look at people are saying that there was consumer news in the pet sector that was the reason for the move. I don't know. I think it's more that you have Ryan Cohen's GME GameStop situation is kind of going to play over into Chewy and has a large short interest. And you have to think the recent move that it's done since its earnings is pressuring the shorts. And the higher it goes, the higher the chance that these folks are going to have to continue to cover their shares. So that could help propel the stock. And I think you take a look, it was at $30 back at last year at this time. Well, August, September of last year. So I'm not even without all that backdrop, I still think it heads higher. So that's those are two names I'll be looking at today for calls pretty much right at the open. And then last but not least is Turns Pharmaceuticals down 7% on Tuesday. No news, no catalyst. It did this back at the end of May. It seems like, and I put it on FinTwit, that the buyers just went to the beach on Tuesday. I think it will trade back up into the eights. Hopefully today, if not today, tomorrow. Continue like that one for upside. I get a lot of questions. PLTR, right? I mean that one's been around. I remember the big runs back in COVID days. Everybody thought that was going to be the next AI play, right? Or the next software. I forget what everybody's comparing, and they still are. And a lot of folks are still, since its IPO, I guess it was the COVID times, still think it's going to be one of these AI plays. And I look, it's like a 55 billion market cap. I mean, they have a deal this morning. It's gapping on the deal this morning. It's interesting. Definitely a name I got to continue to look at. But I mean, to really look for a risk reward, where I mean, it's going to trade 50. Some people post some crazy. They used to post it was going $100. But definitely a name I'm going to do some research on over the coming days is possibly one of those software plays because I still have C3 AI calls and those are not doing well after it's run up after earnings. So going to look for the software side. HPE is the other one, right? I mean, they just had a deal with NVDA. And you can see it's up a dollar 20 again today. So That's another name I'll be watching. Anyway, that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. We have about 38 minutes to the open. Rock and roll.